I've had an amazing day today, or I've had a rough day today, but thank you for the opportunity to experience another day, of being allowed to be on this earth. And then when we go to bed, I actually touch the bottom of my feet. I'll touch my right one first when I take my shoes off. I'll touch my right one, and I thank my grandfathers, who walked before me, for allowing me to walk in the footsteps they've left behind for me. And then I'll touch my left one for my grandmothers. And then I give gratitude for being able to walk. And trust me, I really missed doing that when I was laid up from my fall and I couldn't walk. I was laid up in bed, and it was difficult because I couldn't walk as freely, or I was missing out. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't do anything because I was laid up in bed. So I still had to give gratitude that I know this is temporary. When I'm done, I promise I'm not going to abuse my right to walk on this earth. And so that's what we do. So those are the medicines. Those are the medicines that we use, and that's why four phases of the day then translates to our 4 phases of our own personal development. So that east is symbolic, as you'll see in the wheel that Lee and I are going to put together. It's symbolic of east is symbolic of birth. Spring, the season of spring. So there's 4 seasons. There's spring, there's summer, there's autumn, and there's winter. And those 4 seasons are female in our culture. The spring is the little girl, the one that likes to play in the puddles, the ones who want to pick every single flower and bug to bring them in out of the cold, because there's just this joy this little girl has for other life. Oh, you don't want to leave the bugs outside? Can we bring them in? And stuff. There's just that little girl in us that really cares, because it's innocence. And that child is close to coming back from the ancestors, because that's where she came from, in that spirit world. And so that's what spring teaches us. So we're excited to see the new buds, that first robin, the first worm, if you're a fisherman, you know what I mean? The smell of, for me, it's the smell of grass burning, you know what I mean, and stuff. So there's all of those things. We used to have pounding of ashes, and stuff, just those sounds and stuff. And so summer is the young girl that loves everything and everybody, and stuff. So that's why young love comes from, or summer love. You go away on vacation, you fall in love because you just feel that good in that summer. So it's that little girl in you whose heart, it's heart medicine, right? And so it's that little girl, but that's when the berries come, the sweetgrass comes, the salmon comes. So it's a time of a lot of things that Mother Earth gifts to us. So she's the young girl who is still active enough to pick the berries, and not just off our plates, but to actually go and pick the berries, pick the sweetgrass, and all of that. The autumn woman is the adult woman, the mature woman, the one who's had her moon time, the one who is responsible for tanning hides, to make sure that we have meat, to harvest everything that we grew in our gardens, make sure our medicines are ready for the winter colds that are coming, So we pick this muskrat root, and this is food that the muskrat eats, and we'll string it up. So you'll see in elder homes, you'll see medicine all drying for the winter, so that when we need it, when I need that, I'll just kind of pull it off of one string, and that's my medicine and stuff, And so this is like penicillin. And so I just take a little bite, I leave it underneath my tongue, and then I make sure that it kills any germs that somebody might have a flu in the room. But if I have this in my mouth, there's no way that flu is going to penetrate through this medicine. That's how strong it is. So this is like our penicillin. And so that's our responsibility as a autumn woman. The winter woman is the grandmother. The winter woman is the white-haired grandmother, and I do have white hair, but my Hairdresser won't let me show it. She insists that I have to wait till I'm 70, even though I want it bad. I've even bought little things that have gray in it just so I can have my gray hair and stuff, you know. But anyways, but she's the one that teaches us about replenishing, resting. You know, that's why we call the snow on Earth Mother the blanket. You know, she's taken her time. She has to rest for the spring when everything's going to come back, so she needs to rest. So we as humans are supposed to rest. That's when, during the time of winter, traditionally was storytelling time. That's when we were told stories, and there's really beautiful stories that were Passamaquoddies did a long time ago on those 4 seasons. I remember having a copy of those 4 stories, and with permission by the bilingual program, I altered them to suit what we do here in our territory with those seasons. And those are really beautiful stories. And it's part of my reading assignment for my students for language and stuff. But the Winter Woman is look at the Northern Lights, you know, the one who shows us Northern Lights, the one who shows us the North Star, the one who teaches us how to rest, to listen to stories, to take care and be grateful for the warm fires in our homes when it's cold outside, you know, for all the food that was prepared for the winter so we didn't have to go out to go get food. It's already been prepared for us, and so we have to share with those who don't have it. And so that's what the Winter Woman teaches. And then she gives us hope. The last thing that the Winter Woman gives us is this hope that it won't be long. We'll be running in the puddles again. Won't be long. We'll be swimming again. Won't be long. We'll be picking berries again. So there's always this moving forward and stuff. So that's why the 4 is really sacred, you know, and stuff. So those are the 4 seasons. So it then comes into our 4 phases of life. So that spring is symbolic of our birth. And in that birth is our spirituality, which you'll see on the medicine wheel diagram. In that diagram, it says that that's when you learn at birth, you know your spirituality and your culture by the language that greets you when you're born. So whatever language is done or whatever ceremony is done in your culture, for us, it's burying of the placenta, you know, because for us the placenta is so sacred because it's DNA from both sides of the family that has protected that, you know, baby in the womb. And so after the baby is born, the elders have done their job. So for us, we never left it at the hospital to be disposed of. It was important for us to honor those grandparents or those DNA, you know, our ancestors, and we would bury the ancestors in a nice, beautiful ceremony. And so what we do then is we ask for the placenta. The doctors will put it in, or the nurses will put it in a container. We bring it home and keep it in the freezer if it's a winter birth. And then what we'll do is, in the spring, matter of fact, I've got lots of ceremonies coming up for me to be burying these placentas. And so when we do it, we offer our tobacco to where the placenta is going to be buried in the community. And of course, we'd offer, I'll take my pipe and I'll ask Mother Earth, would you accept the ancestors back? Thank you for this beautiful child you've sent to this family and our community and our nation and our world. And we promise that we as a community will help these parents raise this child. So then the placenta is buried in, and then we cover it up with cedar. You know, we take it out of the container. We can't put plastic in there. We make sure that it's all natural. And traditionally, we would have wrapped it in birch bark, but we don't have enough birch bark now, so we just put it in, wrap it up with cedar. And then what we'll do is the family that's doing it together, they'll bury, you know, they'll just take the shovel and cover up the hole, and then we'll put a stone on it. And so what's beautiful about that is before we even do that burial, I have a cloth, you know, that I'll have, and I'll wrap it up, and while it's still in this plastic container, and then everybody will say, thank you, ancestors, for this beautiful baby you've sent to this family. As the speaker of the community, I promise that this child will hear my gift of language. Then somebody else will say, well, I'm the best cook. I'm going to have to share my recipe. Somebody will say, well, I'm the bread maker, or I'm the basket maker, or I'm the pipe carrier, or I'm the whatever. So it's beautiful to watch these young parents knowing they're not alone in raising their child, that the whole community will raise this child. So that's all done, around a sacred fire, and then everybody then says the name of the child, and stuff. So, and how I do the naming ceremony is I need to know when the child is born, the time of day, the season, and then for me, when I do that, I smoke my pipe at that time. So if a baby is born at 2:38 a.m., I do ceremony at 2:38 a.m., and I ask ancestors, help me how to bring a name for this child you brought into the world at this time of the day, and stuff. So then I'll do that for 4 days. Sometimes I get a vision right away of what the name has to be. Sometimes I don't, and I'll do it until I do. So sometimes I've never went more than 4 days, for one name. But what makes it so strong is, the names that have come. I don't know the families personally. I just know of them because I'll get a list of. I think last year I had 11 babies. Year before, 13 in one community. This year Kingsclear has 10 babies that are going to be born this year, so there'll be a ceremony, and I'm hoping they'll do it together as a community like Woodstock First Nation does. But one of the things I remember, I guess the first ha-ha moment was when I was naming this one baby, and as I'm smoking my pipe for this young baby boy, I could see a grove of white birch trees. The young birch, they weren't big birch, they were just real poles all the way around. And I thought, geez, having a name, grove of birch trees, is kind of too much for a baby. So I thought, since the naming ceremony is new, I will just give this baby the name Birch Bark, so that he'll remember things that are made of birch bark. And that's a good way for him to start learning what his spirit name has to offer. So I gave him that name, and when I named him, the grandmother goes, oh, like that. And I said, don't worry, I'll teach you how to pronounce it. She goes, no,